Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. I'm here hosting today, Zach Hewlett, and along with Jack Bryce. Today we're joined by my good friend and one of my mission favorites, David Pilkington. Pilko, it's good to have you, brother. What part of the world are you calling from tonight?
So I'm in Gloucester, England.
Gloucester.
So I guess the most famous thing for Americans that are listening would be it's like where Harry Potter was filmed in the cathedral there. That was the school from Hogwarts. So
Oh, cool. I didn't realize
that's our
that.
claim to fame here.
That's a great claim to fame. I love to hear that. Well, good. Well, as we just talked about, we'll talk pre-mission, your decision to serve. Then we'll jump over the mission, talk about life since you've been home, all the things in between. And then we'll talk about the mission, go through the MTC, companions, areas, and everything from there. So I'll just give the time to you, Dave.
All right, cheers. Okay, so before my mission, that's a long way back.
It was about 20 years ago now.
Well, I had a little think of a few things, but I didn't think about pre-mission. So I went a year late. So I went when I was 20. I was pretty sure. Well, yeah, I had my heart set on going on a mission. It was just whether I was just finding time for that and living the right way for that and things like that. And I guess I was so worried I would never get on a mission. I didn't even tell anyone when I sent off my papers and when I got my mission call back. So literally no one knew. My parents found out when I got the letter back. They were like,
serious?
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
And I remember going to see my girlfriend when I got the letter back that I was going to Scotland, going to see my girlfriend at the time. And I said to her, "Oh, we're going to have to break up." And she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "I'm moving away, actually. I'm moving to Scotland." Because obviously for me, Scotland's not a million miles away. So it's within the realms of possibility. It's not like I said I was moving to Australia or something.
Yeah.
So so I managed to convince her I was moving to Scotland. So we had to break up. And then after I'd had enough fun, I showed her that I'd got my mission call to Scotland.
That's amazing. Oh.
But for some reason I had a really strong feeling, which was obviously wrong, that I was going to France. So I'd spent about a year before I got my mission call reading the Book of Mormon in French, the biggest waste of time ever, and like brushing up my French. And then I got Scotland. So it was a bit of a shock when I opened the letter, to be honest. I was, for some reason, just had it in my head that I might go to France. So
did you study French before? Is that why that was kind of in your head?
I'd done French at school, like most of us do. We either do French or German at school.
Yeah.
So I'd done French. I think I just feel like I was being introduced to so many French people. Like lots of French people moved into our ward. I made friends with lots of French people in the year or two before my mission. So it just felt like everything was coming together. Like maybe these were prompts to learn to like brush up on your French and everything. I don't know why I got it in my head, but I did for whatever reason. So I wasn't like instant elation when I saw Scotland, especially because for us it's just part of the United Kingdom. It's like going down the road a bit. But my granddad is from Scotland, so actually once I spent some time and sat with it and thinking about it, I was really, really chuffed to be able to go back up to, because my family moved to the UK from Zimbabwe.
Okay.
But my granddad was Scottish and moved over to Zimbabwe on the railroads during the war. So that's how he ended up over there. So yeah, it's quite nice having that kind of heritage and then getting to go back to Scotland.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you know what part of Scotland he's from original?
Yeah, the Bridge of Weir, which I think is near Glasgow.
Yeah, right? I think so. I mean, I'd have to pull out my map, but I remember hearing that name quite a few times. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And for those listening, when did you go to the MTC to hang out with me?
So I went. I was there on my 20th birthday. I don't know if you remember that.
I didn't know that. No.
So yeah, I was there in January. When was it? 2005, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my birthday was on the 7th. I can't remember what day we got there. Was it like the 5th or the 6th or something?
Yeah, the 5th was the day that I flew, so I don't think I got there till the 6th.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely forgot that it was your birthday the next day. And again, I hardly knew you at that moment in time. So how was I
No.
supposed to like jump all over you and give you a big love and say happy birthday? You know?
Do you know what? I even forgot I had my birthday in the MTC, but then someone was talking to me about a couple of years back on Facebook, and they were like, "Oh, do you remember when they got you that massive Costco cake and like brought it out to, you know, that cafeteria we all used to
Yeah.
eat on?" And like one of the days with all the food, there was like some huge cake from Costco, you know, that really fake American white icing stuff. And we were like, "Oh yeah, we'll have some cake." Yeah, that was for my birthday.
See, I was so jet lagged at that point in time. I hadn't figured it out. You guys were all speaking a different language
Cake.
than I was. And, oh, cake! I know what that is. I can eat that. Oh man, that's too funny. All right, so January '05, home
Yeah.
January 2007. Tell us about life from January of '07 to now.
Yeah, lots has happened, as I'm sure it has with everyone. So I got home. I guess the first thing when I got home, the biggest shock was I had no friends anymore. So all my friends had, because I went a year late, all my friends had gone out before me on their missions, and they'd all gone to the Manchester, England mission. There was a group of about 4 of my mates that had gone there. And I guess because they liked the girls up there or whatever, they decided when they finished their mission, they'd move straight back up. So by the time I got home, all 4, all of them lived up there. There was like no friends left.
Oh,
It
man,
was a bit of a
crazy.
shock, to be honest. But I'm sure for everyone it's weird coming back. But it's just funny, like everyone had decided to move to Manchester.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know we did that tri mission conference or something at the temple on our mission, didn't we? And
That's right.
all my friends were still in Manchester at the time, so I got to see loads of my friends that were in the Manchester mission. That was lush.
That had to have been pretty cool for quite a few of our British contingency of missionaries, because, like you said, there was such a commonality where a lot of missionaries were going from one part of England to the other, or even to Ireland, or everyone was pretty close. So I remember who was I serving with at the time? I want to say I was with Stuart Patton, and I think he had some mates that were in some of the other missions too. So like, it's probably a pretty common thing for you.
Yeah, I'm sure all the English guys liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just felt embarrassed the whole time is my main memory, because do you remember they kept pushing us to get a haircut even if you'd already had a haircut? And like, I just cut my hair and I was that obedient and stupid that I was like, right, they told me to cut it again, I'm going to cut it again. So I went with this like terrible haircut that's been cut twice by missionaries. It was awful.
I didn't realize that. That's pretty funny. I probably ignored them at that point too. I was like, my hair looks fine. Carry on.
Right. I was a letter of the law missionary for most of the time, to a fault, I think. But yeah, so going back to MTC, was it we were talking about?
Life after the mission.
Oh, life after the MTC. Yeah, so all my friends were gone. So I decided to just go to uni and leave Southampton anyway, which is where I grew up. So I applied for Bristol University, which is a decent university over here. Studied audiology, so hearing aids, and that's kind of been the career that I've gone into. So I'm an audiologist. Got married in embarrassing Mormon style in the exact same year that I got back. So at least I got back in the January, so I had a bit of time. But yeah, I met a girl and got married, and we both moved to Bristol for university. So lived a little student life over there for 5 years, which was cute and nice. Had a couple of kids. So that was, it was nice. And as I said, went on to work in audiology in the NHS that we have over here in the hospitals. And then I got very, very bored of that very quickly. So I ended up selling hearing aids privately in shops in a private sector. And then probably the last 12 years, I'd say, I moved into training other people. So I train other audiologists, train people how to do stupid stuff like remove wax from ears and things like that. So
Really?
The amount of wax I pull out of ears and train other people to is not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. That's not many people want to do that. They don't even do it for themselves. So how are they going to expect to go and do it for other people? That's pretty funny.
It's great.
Man. Good for you.
It's amazing though, the amount of people you tell Well, today I was teaching people to suck wax out of ears, and they're like, "Oh, I watch YouTube videos of that all the time. I love it." It's like some people have got weird interests.
Yeah, it's like it's those that like the pimple popper videos and stuff like that, right?
Those exact people. Yeah,
Oh
not
goodness.
for me.
No, not for me neither. Oh goodness. That's good.
Um,
And how old are your kids?
yeah, so I've got two boys, Jacob and Giles, and Jacob is 14 and 6'2", size 12 feet. He's a massive. He's much taller than me, so that's interesting having a hormonal boy running around the house that's bigger than you.
That's
And then
great.
Giles is 10, so he's still a little bit cute. And yeah, just a lovely kid.
That's great. And
Um,
you can share as much as you want about um, your married life. I mean, I understand that that's been kind of a rough situation for you, and I'm sure your boys have gone through it as well. But you're now not with your current wife, correct?
yeah, exactly. We got divorced, separated probably about 4 years ago. Just kind of, we actually, the first thing my kids said to me was like, "Yeah, but you guys never argue. Why are you getting separated?" But it's just one of those growing apart type things, and different people. I think, it's cute getting married so young in the Mormon way, but I think sometimes, we all change. I'm not the same person I was when I was 22. I'm sure you're not.
Nope, not at all.
So yeah, just over time, I guess we're different people. But yeah, at the time it was tough because we broke up, and not long after was COVID, which obviously I'm sure has been talked to death.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, my best friend took his life during COVID as well.
that's right.
So yeah, it was a rough couple of years, to be honest, through those. But it's just like everything in life. I think it's been for the best. Like I've come out on the other side and living my happiest life that I've lived in a long time. So yeah, absolutely loving it. That's how life goes sometimes, isn't it?
It does. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of what our podcast is as well, is helping people realize that despite the fact that some of us, more than or just less than 20 years ago, we were all in Scotland and everything was kind of a little bit of a bubble. But since then, all of us have had life experiences that have shaped us in however we are now. I mean, there's no way that we could have ever predicted 20 years ago what we'd look like now and what the experiences we would have had. And so I appreciate you being willing to share that. And ultimately it's going to be beneficial to someone else that's listening that's dealing with the same thing. So I appreciate that. Thanks, David.
Yeah, that's fine. I think, we all go through really hard times, don't we? I know you've been there.
Yep.
We all go through it. And ultimately, usually on the other side, nothing lasts forever, good times or bad times, right? And everything passes and you get back to happy times. So yeah, if anyone is struggling and listening to this, just keep going. Happy times come again, promise.
Yeah. Well said. All right. Well, jump back into the mission, started the MTC, because I'd love to hear your memories of what that was like, because I don't remember much of it, as the foggy 3 weeks it was.
Yeah, I don't either. And the bit that's crazy to me is things that I remember from the MTC. It feels like at a certain point I knew you guys all really well, or this happened like months into my mission or something. And then I remember looking at my mission journal. I don't know where it is now, but I remember looking at it quite a few years back. And some of the things I remember happening, like, oh, I knew these guys for ages. They were like day 2 of the MTC. I guess because we were just like crammed together and spent all the minutes of the day together and night together. It just, you got to know each other quite quickly, didn't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a great time. I think I struggled a little. I think I struggled with anxiety a little bit in the MTC. As a district leader, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anyone. I was suddenly like given this job to do. So I was a bit nervous. I think that stopped me getting to know everyone so well right at the beginning, and trying to do the responsibilities that as well as I could and things like that. I was trying to take it all very seriously, probably, which isn't normally me, actually. I'm a very unserious person.
I was in the same boat, though. I was called as the other district leader.
Yeah, you were the other district leader, weren't you?
I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know that this was something that could be asked of me the moment I walked into a foreign building, you know?
It
It
was
was
real quick as well, wasn't it? It was just
it
like, oh, and
it
by the
was
way,
it was. They brought us in, they're like, "We're so glad you're here. Shake your hand. Nice to meet you. We'd like you to be the district leader." And I'm like, "Come again?" You know? It's just it was a shock.
I reckon they were just like, these two look really cuddly. Let's just pick them.
That's it. That's it.
That's the judgment criteria.
That's right. Oh, man, it's so funny. Who was your companion in the MTC?
Was eldest Streeter?
That's right.
Yeah. So were you with Divine, was it?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good time. I mean, like I said, I think I put too much on myself. I was a little bit anxious. I didn't probably have much fun as a lot of people in the MTC, but there was some great moments with all you guys, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, one of my memories I talk about the most from the MTC is probably I don't know why it happened, but suddenly getting really bad headaches and migraines every day of the MTC. I don't know if it's the lights in there, or not seeing fresh air, or not seeing hot girls for a certain amount of time. But for whatever reason, I started getting really bad headaches. And they were going on for ages. And I saw the doctor at the MTC, and they were just gave me Tylenol, which we don't have in the UK. So instantly I was like, what's this? Like asking them, I'll probably ask you, like, it's just painkillers.
Yeah.
Like, I've already tried painkillers. So yeah, needless to say, they did nothing for me. But I just remember it was such a weird experience. But Elder Street was just one day after me suffering for ages with these headaches. So, do you know what? I think it was his dad or something. There's like, my dad does this thing where he like massages you with his elbows when you've got a headache, and he says it's tension and it relieves it. Do you want me to try it? And I said, I'll try anything. Elder Streeter hurt me so bad with his elbows. I was in agony. I was howling. I think I probably cried. This guy was digging in so hard. Do you know what? The headaches went though. I never got another headache for my whole mission. Elder Streeter sorted me out for the whole 2 years.
He found that point and just drove a stake through that knot and said, "It's over. See you later."
Yeah, it was agony, but it was worth it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I think you were in the same room as Barbara and Fisher, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, it was Loganberg in my room.
I don't think so. I could be wrong though.
I feel like, I don't know. I mainly remember in that bedroom. We'd do like sit-up races.
Sit-up races? I didn't know that.
So we'd like lie on the floor in a row, and then you'd have to like lift your legs up, then do a sit-up, and then straighten them. As you straighten them, you kind of shuffled forward a tiny bit. So then you just keep doing sit-ups and kind of just crawl across the floor. We'd sit there for ages just doing like sit-up races across the floor.
Oh my gosh. When are you guys doing this? Like before bed?
Before bed, probably, or in the morning. I don't know. While you were taking a poo and having a competition.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I remember most was walking down the hallway after I think I'd gone to either have a shower or something at the end of the night, and you guys were shooting like balled up underwear across the hallway. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
I was like, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're just I think Loganberg and his crew are on the other side of the hallway, like direct across from you. So you have to open the door, fire, and slam the door really quick.
Yeah.
You guys are having way too much fun.
Yeah, we did a lot of silly things. I remember passing notes under the corridor, and then there was a locked door, and the girls are on the other side. We'd pass notes under.
It was you and Divine, right, that were doing that.
Probably.
That was why. That's why I locked Divine out of our room one night. I was like, "It's time for bed," and he's told me to get lost, and I was like, "Cool." Locked door.
Yeah.
I think he ended up in your room that night. Like he slept in one of the spare bunks.
Oh. Yeah, I remember you locking him out. I don't remember where he slept. And the other main thing I remember is just how bad Elder Loganberg smelled. Do you remember his farts?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's my main missionary memory from the MTC, was just running away from that guy.
Well, I don't know if he knew it before the mission or if he discovered it while we were in the MTC, but his his IBS that he had was clearly a thing.
Mm.
And then throughout the mission, I know he used it because I served around him later in the mission. And I distinctly remember we had a district meeting at our flat in Hamilton, and he definitely let one rip in a trash bin and then turned it over and walked out. And we had to open it, like pick it up later, and it was still in there. It was awful. So
Oh man, that was a weapon. That should have
the,
been registered.
the memories of Logie Bear. My gosh, that guy. That's pretty funny. And then we took the train up to Edinburgh from there.
Yep.
What are your memories as we got up to the mission?
Remember the train ride being beautiful.
Yeah.
It did feel a bit like Harry Potter, didn't it? Like when they
It
catch
did.
the train in. Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
And yeah, I enjoyed the weird tour that we got from the APs and stuff like that. That was
Yeah.
interesting. It was even more interesting having to do it at the end of my mission to other people. But
And when we get to that, I want to ask you some questions about it because I was reading through my journal, and Elder White was one of the APs, and he was the one driving the mission van at that point in time. And I wrote down all these things that he'd said in my journal, and then I was reading it, going, I wonder how much of this was complete trash. Like, there's no way all of it was real. But anyway, pretty funny.
yeah, the desolation, was that what it was? That
Yes,
building, that's
I
what they
think you're
called it.
right. I think you're right.
And then some weird stories about the Royal Mile.
The disgrace of Scotland and all that. Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, then talking of Elder White, I then remember did we all have to go chap indoors, or was that just me?
Yeah, we did chap doors for a little bit. I don't remember who I was with at that point in time, but
I was with
we did.
Elder White. So it's like, here's your AP, and I'm still like new, so I'm like, oh, APs, he must be important. And then had to knock doors with him. I was like, absolutely terrified, I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
I could barely talk. He's like, I think I would stand in front of the door, and I was like too scared to even knock. He was like, they're not going to come to the door unless you knock, Elder Pilkington.
He was a pretty intense guy. He definitely he had that persona where there was like a fiery little animal inside of him, and if you rattled his cage enough, you could tell that something might he might explode a little bit. But he did it out of jest a lot too, like
yeah,
just wanting to have fun but mess with people at the same time. So anyway,
I remember him saying amazing all the time. Like I already noticed that like the second that I met him, and then by about 2 months into my mission, I was saying amazing all the time. When I got home, that was like I got ripped by everyone for saying amazing.
Really?
Like why are you saying that all the time? That's amazing, Elder.
Well, I'm thinking about it too. I think prior to him, he was with Kofi Asariadu, and I'm pretty sure that was one of his catch lines that he said throughout the mission as well. So I mean, everybody was amazing. That's amazing. Oh man,
yeah.
so
everyone got the same humor and the same personality by the end of the mission.
Yeah, exactly. In my notes too, as I was reading in my journal, I saw that you, me, and Fisher got the nicer of the rooms at the bed and breakfast that night. And we felt like kings because we were in the nicest of the big room, and it was a lot of fun, good memories.
Yeah, it was so exciting at that point, wasn't it? And
yeah,
and like going in and meeting your companion for the first time, and yeah, it was sort of. I just remember sort of being buzzing, but it's all a bit fuzzy. I think I was so excited, I probably wasn't taking it in very well.
yeah. Well, and I didn't realize this until I read my journal, but we went from the bed and breakfast that morning, and they picked us up at like 7 a.m. and then we went and hiked Pratt's Hill. And keep in mind, it's like the end of January. It was dark, and I didn't realize this until I talked with Ashley Devine about it. But remember, he had busted up his ankle in the MTC, and I had to help him up the hill. Like, I completely forgot about that moment in time because I clearly was more focused on making sure he got up without having to have my own moment. But like, just the timeline of all of that, it had to have been super early in the morning. it was dark, and I bet it was probably pretty hazy in the morning at that point too, like
Yeah.
kind of like the sea rain coming off, and yeah, it was just like, but it was so foggy in my memory for the longest time until I read my journals recently. I was just like, how did we do all that within such a short period of time? And that's
Yeah,
probably
there's a
why
lot crammed in.
I was totally knackered by the end of that day because it was so long. It was a long day.
It was. I
Anyway,
loved going up Pratt's Hill though. Luckily, obviously, because I'm in the UK, not a million miles away. So whenever I go to Edinburgh, I usually try and have a little hike up there. It's still a really special place for me, to be fair. I really like it up there.
yeah,
I even proposed to my ex-wife at the top of Pratt's Hill.
I didn't know that.
Um,
That's cool.
yeah, yeah, I love it up there. So it's a good walk as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's on my to-do list when I'm back over there in the future for sure.
Yeah, you have to. It's good.
All right. So from there, what was your first area and who was your trainer?
So my first so my first area was Livingston, which is sort of halfway between Glasgow and Edinburgh. And it was Eldon Nelson was my trainer. So I think he probably looked a bit like me. We were probably a bit like twinners with like our side buttons and our glasses. And but yeah, he's an awesome guy. I think like everyone, absolutely all of us, we have personality traits that can be both strengths and weaknesses. And I mean, on the harder side of things, he was a bit like you were describing Elder White. I think you had to work hard, you had to be serious, you had to take the whole, like every minute of this was for God, and we have to put 100% in at all times. So yeah, he worked me to the bone those 3 months. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard work. But you know what? Like I said, other sides of that are strengths. Just seeing someone that's so committed, that's so disciplined, that really, he was doing it for the pure love of Christ, and you could see that there was no other reason. It was just because he really loved Jesus and he wanted to do the work. And so I think that there was a huge beauty to seeing that, and it made you able to kind of follow him and keep working hard, because you were like, yeah, he's not doing this to hurt me. He's not doing this to make me suffer. It's for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, we worked hard. It was I think in hindsight it was tough, but it was a good way to start a mission, because it's like, right, well, for a start, it only gets easier from here. And
Yeah.
secondly, it's kind of instilled a work ethic of, that over time I did kind of balance out a little bit, I would say, but certainly gave me that kind of hard-working ethos right from the beginning. Because for me, I'm pretty chill, laid-back guy, leave things to the last minute. Like I'll get everything done, but I'll do it in my own time. So it's probably good that I didn't have a first companion that was the same as me, because I probably just would have got into bad habits or been lazy or whatever.
That's good. I appreciate that. Are you still in touch with is it Matthew? I think it's his first
Matthew.
name.
Yeah, we've messaged a few times over the years, but nothing recently. But yeah, I've always sort of tried to send the odd message, because he did mean a lot to me. I think everyone, their trainer, no matter what they're like, right? It's almost like your dad on your mission. It's
Yeah, exactly.
they have a lot of a big role in kind of shaping who you are for those 2 years. So yeah, I've got a lot of time for Matthew. Yeah, we lived with Elder Kellogg, and I think it was Elder Christensen, I want to say. He's like from Denver. He had blonde hair.
Yeah, Matthew, right?
Yeah, that sounds all right.
Yeah.
They were a riot. They were hilarious. And if it had been like in Dunfermline, where we just had so much fun, right? But Elder Nelson was kind of like, no, they're on a separate mission to us, even though they lived with us. So I didn't actually interact with them all that much, if I'm honest.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
When we're supposed to be going to bed, we're supposed to be going to bed. When we're supposed to exercise, we're supposed to exercise. There wasn't a lot of time for sort of fraternizing with those guys, but they were really funny guys. They were a good laugh to live with.
I bet that would be fun.
They used to tease me a lot, because I think when I was in the MTC, like I said, my birthday, a female friend of mine sent me like a teddy bear, and I think she kind of sewed a missionary outfit for it, and she even made it a little badge, and it was like Elder McMissionary Bear or something like that.
That's right.
And I had it, yeah, I had it at the MCC. Everyone would tease me at the MCC, but I loved it. It was cool that a girl sent me that. And then I had it in Livingston, and I think they were like playing, what is it, Piggy in the Middle or whatever, throwing it over my head, and I was trying to get it back, like some annoying 3-year-old trying to get their toy back or something. And as they were throwing it, I think Elder Keller caught it, and it started talking, and it was my friend Rebecca's voice.
Yeah.
And we found out there was like a Build-A-Bear, I guess. I didn't know about Build-A-Bear at the time, but like it had a voice inside it that she'd recorded a few different messages, and when you press the button, but I'd never even thought to press it, like that it might have a button inside. So he catches it, this girl starts talking. We're all like missionaries that don't get to talk to any girls. Everyone was like, oh, she's got a nice voice. So he's stealing my bear all the time, just listening to her talk.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's amazing. That's really funny.
You do really start to have some weird side effects to not ever talking to or hanging out with girls.
Yes. It's been mentioned a few times, not many, but the terminology of the word cornflakes, if you remember from the mission.
Yeah, yeah. I still use that phrase now, and no one knows what I mean.
Serious? Yeah. Oh my gosh. See, I can't say it around here because everybody's like, "What the heck does that mean?" It just doesn't resonate the same. But oh man,
same
so
here.
funny.
But I just use it anyway. Inside joke with myself.
That's great. Oh man, that's funny.
What else with Livingston? Yeah, it was. This is how strict Elder Nelson was. We wouldn't be able to go to the shop unless it was P Day, like for any reason, because we were working, right? Because we could do a missionary work. So even when we ran out of toilet roll, we weren't allowed to go to the shop and get more toilet roll.
No, that's terrible.
So we ended up using like newspapers, like any paper we could find around the house. And in the end, we were down. This one week, we ran out like on a Wednesday or something, so we had to wait till Tuesday the next week. And so we were using everything in the house. We got to like glossy magazines. It got that bad, and that did not work well.
Oh my gosh! I hope he's not like that anymore. My gosh, that would be terrible. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, he was just passionate about following the rules. I used to struggle with it a bit though, because I think people like that can make me quite withdraw rather than come out. Just like, oh, I'll just stay out of this and let them get on with what they're doing. They're obviously on a mission. And so, but that would work against me on our planning meetings, because I think he was trying to be a trainer and like teach me how to plan and do everything. And you used to have those longer weekly planning meetings. Was it a Thursday or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Mm-hmm. The companionship inventory stuff and everything in between, right?
Oh, how embarrassing was that? I'm pretty sure I didn't do that most of my mission, but he made me do that. Yeah,
he did. That's great. It's good practice for sure.
Well, yeah. What do you want to talk to me about? And you're like, nothing really, but I know that means you're about to talk to me about a lot of stuff.
That's right. The passive aggressive approach. That's right.
But when we would do the planning meetings, he would sort of, because he was trying to teach me, he'd say, Elder Pilkington, what do you think we should do in these 2 hours? I'd be like, I don't know. He'd be like, well, maybe we'll just wait here until you do know. I'd be like, okay. And we'd just sit there. Half an hour would pass in silence, and he wouldn't give up till I talked. Like when parents like, I'm not saying the next thing, wait till they say it. So we'd just sit there. And sometimes those planning meetings would go on for hours and hours of that, just excruciating silence. So I'd just sit there like, well, I'm not going to answer. It's so funny thinking back, like how much time we wasted just him being like, you should do this. And I'm like, I'll just sit here.
Well, and you being a little bit more mature than a lot of us, like other of us that were younger would have been like, okay, well, let me give you a suggestion. But you were probably just like, yeah, I'll stand my ground. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. I'm a bit stubborn with stuff like that, I think. But yeah, on the other side, we got on amazing. We were really good friends by the end of it. And yeah, always sort of a father role, a bit like your dad. You can be like, he was strict with me, but I just love him to bits. That's how I feel about Elder Nelson. He was, I just loved the time with him. Taught me so much of strength, of things that I'm not strong at naturally, and like I said, I did carry that through my mission. I probably inflicted the same punishment on people I trained, unfortunately, but yeah, at least teaching everyone to work hard right out the gates, and not a bad start on a mission, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds great. So from there,
I went to Dunfermline with yourself, and obviously my companion was out of Bredlow at first. I can't remember how long we were companions. Maybe one moose,
Bredlow?
maybe two. Yeah, two.
No, you were there for 4.5 months together.
Well, I think Elder Barber might have been the last 6 weeks. So
Correct.
Probably two moves with Bredlow and one with Barber. Yeah.
No, because I was there for 6 months and you were there the whole time.
I think I might have left one before you to go and train and kill winning.
I don't think so. I really don't. No, I don't.
I don't trust my own memory. But yeah, anyway.
Because you and I came in the same time to Dunfermline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you remember, my timeline was I had Elder Conway for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I was with Elder
Elder
Littlefield for 4.5 months.
Oh, 4.5 months. You might be right. You might be right.
I swear, if you had left,
I was there a decent amount of time.
Because I remember, I mean, you and Bredlow were like the constant in my life throughout the whole thing. And then when Barbara came in, I mean, it was like adding some extra chocolate chips on the cookie. It was so good.
Bit of sauce.
It was so good. Oh man.
We had the best time. That was probably like the most fun I had on my mission. Yeah, in that area. I think we're just all really easygoing people. No one was trying to cause any trouble, or like we all had great sense of humor, right? Yeah, it was the perfect mix. And we also weren't slackers or anything. We went out, we didn't work, but when we had some free time, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did. I mean, you look back on it, and it's. I was actually reading through my journal this afternoon just to like remember some of the things we did, and like how often we'd play football. You know, we'd go and play basketball on Fridays at the high school. You know, we were just always up for anything. Lots of service projects, whether it was painting fences or digging dirt, you know, for people's gardens or whatever. You know, like just nonstop fun. And like you said, we worked hard. We had great numbers. We had great people we were working with. And then on top of that, like you said, we'd get together. How many times I wrote the word verboten in my journal for that 6 months? Thank you to.
I still use that.
Thank you to Bredlow for that. Yes, the verboten. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun.
It was great. I'm pretty sure when I was listening to Bredlow's podcast, I couldn't believe that he didn't talk about your bogies behind the sofa thing.
I still look back and I was so immature to do something like that. That was awful.
Oh yeah, but sometimes awful is the funniest. I honestly didn't believe Conway when he said you were doing that, and then we moved the sofa. I was like, whoa.
That was disgusting. So bad. I was actually reading at one point, a senior couple had come through and like walked through our flats. If you remember, it's at one point, and they said, "You need to clean this place up." But there was no mention in my notes of them ever looking behind the sofa. Like, well, okay, it must have been clean at that point. Gosh.
Well, they just didn't move the sofa, and it definitely wasn't clean.
Probably not. You know, they were just noticing like the clutter as opposed to the overall cleanliness. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. It was nice that we. It is nice when you're in a 4-person area, you get a bit of support, because as much as, even if you get on with your companion pretty well, if it's just the two of you for like 3 months, it is nice to get some other humans involved and talk to some other people, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and you had a completely different experience. I didn't realize that you had Kellogg and Christensen that were in the other area in Livingston, but, like, I was coming from Peterhead where I was basically on the outer regions of the mission with Elder Bryce, and nothing against him, but it was nice to get together for district meetings and zone conferences and zone activities or P days just to get some differentiation in our days. And now, looking back at Dunfermline, we didn't have to have that. Like, I didn't long for those days because we were always doing stuff together. Like, in my journal as I was reading, it was like we went and picked up the boys and we went to the Listons for dinner, or we went to the the Rands for dinner, or we went to the Lynches for dinner, or like we did everything together. It was pretty
Yeah,
common that all four of us got invited to places together, and so it was all the more of an opportunity for all of us to be together and have a lot of
yeah.
fun on top of doing what we were doing. So it was great.
Yeah, and even like shopping together and stuff. I don't know why, but for some reason, every picture I've got of that period where I wasn't in a suit, I'm wearing like, for some reason, I always wore the same outfit, like trainers, pajama bottoms, a Celtic long sleeve jersey with the green hoops, and then a t-shirt on top of that, so you
Yeah.
only had the arms of the green hoops. And I literally have wearing pajamas in every picture on P days in the supermarket. I'm like, why was I wearing pajama bottoms every day?
Because it was way better than wearing slacks for sure.
Yeah, that's probably it. I'm so tired of suits. I'm like, no, I want to go the opposite. If I could go out just in underwear, I would.
That's right. That's exactly it. Oh man, it's true
Yeah,
though.
that's fair.
You had a pretty solid P Day outfit that you wore quite a bit. I mean, how many of my pictures are you in that where we're either just running around doing something fun, or we're playing football and getting muddy and whatever. I mean, you had the same outfit, which was fantastic. I had no problem with it,
I probably didn't have many clothes, to be honest.
and that's
But
okay
yeah,
too.
I remember a lot of like football around our flat as well, and just games, silly games. I even remember Conway had like pink mouthwash, didn't he? Like bubblegum mouthwash or something.
Probably.
He was like, mint's too strong of a flavor. Poor Conway. We used to tease him so much, right? And hold him down and tickle him. And
Yes.
I swear he had to wrestle all of us in a row one time.
No, because I could pin him down and you guys would be at his legs and his feet, and he's done. He was in deep trouble. Oh man,
Yeah,
that's so
we
much
were
fun.
always having you guys over. Uh, Me and Bredlow, we got on well. We worked hard. We would talk a lot. You know what he's like? He's like he likes to play devil's advocate. So we'd be walking around the street and he'd be like providing arguments to any viewpoint you have. So we'd just walk down the street, sort of half friends, half arguing. But it was funny. He's a hilarious guy. I laughed so much with him.
Yes.
We we were a bit like over familiar. We're both over familiar people, I think, but we were a little bit like we get to know people around the town and like talk to everyone and love chatting to people. We're both that kind of people. But I do remember my favorite story from then. You probably remember at the time, but we just talked to anyone. We were talking to this guy as we were walking back to our flat. He was just walking down the street and just chatting to him. He seemed really nice. He was saying he got out of prison not long ago. He didn't have anywhere to live. Could he have some money for food? And we were like, listen, our flat's just there. We'll go and make you a sandwich. I don't know if you remember, Bredlow used to make those massive sandwiches. He loves sandwiches. He
Yeah.
eats so many. So we brought this guy in. Bredlow's in the kitchen. I'm sat talking to him on the table. He's making like these giant sandwiches for us all. We're just talking, and I sort of said to him, "So, you know, you just not long out of prison then? If you've got any plans of where to move?" He's like, no, I don't know where I'm going to move. Yeah, it's all a bit rough. I've been in there this many years. And I was like, oh, so what happened? And he was like, well, I stabbed someone, didn't I? And then they died. So then it went down as murder. And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
oh, maybe this is why we don't invite people into our flat.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, had to go into the kitchen and be like, Aldebrello, yeah, he's a murderer.
Oh, jeez. I don't know if
Oh,
you guys
bless
ever
him.
told us that. At least not that I recall. That's pretty funny though.
It's one of those that was funny in hindsight, but I think I was genuinely a bit scared once he said, he was like, I didn't mean to kill him. he jumped on me and I just had a knife, so and I was like, oh yeah, you didn't mean to kill him then, that's all right.
This gesture is the best part, is like,
just a bit of this.
3 or 4 times, twist it a little,
Yeah.
whatever. That's so good.
Yeah, we were a bit too friendly with everyone. We got to know everyone, but God, yeah, you get yourself in some strange situations sometimes, don't you?
Yeah. But I remember the best part, I think, about that time period was we had an awesome district. Like,
Yeah,
amazing, amazing missionaries. We had Elder Bass was at least he was the district leader for a short period of time. I can't remember how long
yeah.
it was.
We'd play hacky sack around his
Oh yeah,
car park all the time, wouldn't we?
hacky sack after district meeting. I mean, you were pretty intense. I saw some of your competitive edge come out when we were playing hacky.
Yeah, I am a bit competitive. I remember Elder Bass, all his songs he would write, it'd be so funny. Like that one about Shaniqua or whatever. Do you remember that?
No.
He was writing some girl at home and she had like a name like that. And he wrote a song like pretending he couldn't remember her name. So he's like, I mean, Taniqua. And he'd like change her name all the way through the song. It was really funny and really good song.
I forgot about that. He was always tinkering with his guitar. Anytime he had an opportunity, it was like he'd just walk around the flat with his guitar in hand, strumming and singing what he thought. It was pretty good.
I remember meeting up as a zone and we played like a huge game of American football.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun up in Dundee.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'd never played American football before. I had a good time, but I busted my middle finger up.
Oh, that's right.
The end of it, and I went to see a nurse because there was a huge lump on it. It wouldn't go down, and I still actually have it to this day.
Oh my gosh.
I still have a deformed middle finger because of that American football game. And I remember going to a nurse and being like, what is this thing on my finger growing out my finger? Why have I got a huge lump there? And she was like, oh yeah, that'll be there forever now. And I was like, oh great. Glad we did that then.
That was her explanation, is it's just there, carry on?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
You don't.
ridiculous. The beautiful nature of the NHS, its work right there.
Yeah.
Golly,
I guess it's the opposite. In your side, they're like looking for work, aren't they? They want to have work, and on our side, it's kind of like, yeah, no. If we can get away with doing nothing, we will.
That's right. Yeah, they'll dig it right out of you. Oh, and by the way, we scanned your whole body while we were looking at your broken wrist, and there's more problems. Come back next week.
Yeah, it's even worse here since COVID, to be honest. But that's another story.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. It's crazy. No, we had a lot of fun nonstop. It was just an enjoyable time, and you guys had an investigator you baptized at that point in the mission, right?
Remind me who that was.
As an older single lady that you guys helped stop smoking. I cannot remember her name for the life of me.
Oh,
it's probably in my journal right here. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Was it? It wasn't Betty or something.
I think Betty was her name. Yeah.
The lady with the like yellow drips down her wallpaper and doors from the scene of the car and all that. Oh gosh.
I had only gone to her flat one time, and I was like, "Okay, I get it. She's clearly a severe smoker."
Yeah, severe. Maybe the most severe I've ever seen.
Yes, I do remember her name was Betty. That's true. Jack, hello.
Hi, Jack.
Howdy.
How's it going? How was church?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
And he's come back with the mustache, like his friend me.
I had to join.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't get the memo. I should have shaved this bit and added this bit.
You're not the only one who can get the memo. But yeah, going back to Betty, I mean, it was quite a transformation for her, because I remember you guys had chapped into her, and she was pretty depressed and dealing with a lot of stuff. And obviously the thing that brought her the most comfort was her cigarettes. And but eventually it was just a matter of you guys teaching and getting her on the right path, and she eventually got baptized, which was great.
Yeah, I think she wanted to for quite a while, but it was just the giving up smoking. And as we kind of alluded to, she was quite amazingly heavy smoker. So
yes.
I remember how bad it was by the fact when she got down to 50 a day, she was celebrating. Like, that was an accomplishment. And yeah, we used to have to go around every day to try and just help her and support her. We even got her on like things like getting grapefruit juice in the morning. And yeah, I felt like we were more doing some addiction help than teaching with her, because she was ready to go. She was just trying to get off the cigarettes. But yeah, she was sweet. And who knows if she went back to it, but it was nice to think at least she knows she had the willpower to get over it.
That's right.
Kind of gives you some strength when you go through, overcome things like that, doesn't it?
Agreed. Very much so. And one of my favorite memories too on the mission when you were with Elder Barber was when we went on the ward camp out. Do you remember that night?
The ward camp out? No, I don't.
Yeah, they said we got permission from President Vrains to go on the ward camp out, and somebody gave us a tent and like enough sleeping bags for all of us to go. And so we went to the camp out. I can't remember where it was. It was somewhere in our area, but that night, like, we were with Tim and Dom, and there was a basketball hoop that was able to be lowered. We were taking like pictures of each other dunking on the low basketball hoop. Like I have photos I need to send to you because it's quite cool.
You need to send them across.
But like the opportunity to go camping on your mission, like never in my wildest dreams would that have ever crossed my mind. But I think it was end of summer. It was like July or August by that point in time when it was super nice outside. The sun was up until, who knows, it had to have been 10:30 or so by the time it went down. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you know what? Now that you said it, I remember we went camping. I remember asking permission, but I literally have no memories of the actual camping. And it's like, oh, I was a missionary, got to go camping. No, I don't remember it at all.
It's because it was the worst night of sleep that I'm sure any of us could have ever imagined on our missions, beyond sleeping on the floor and, on transfer days or something like that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you'll have to send me across the pictures. I do remember transfers being possibly my favorite thing about serving in Dunfermline, when we do the chimichangas and the face masks.
That was Jack's idea.
Oh, was it?
Chimichangas is where that came from.
I owe you a massive thanks there. That was an awesome tradition.
Oh my gosh, deep fried tacos and face masks. There was that one time, I can't remember if it had to have been Conway, where he got me a breast firming cream instead of a facial mask. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I have a picture of the breast firming cream and a picture of it with you on you.
Well, I had to do it. I was, if you're gonna make fun of me, then sure, I'll make it a fun moment for us, and we did it. And I don't think it worked at all. It was horrible.
If it worked, everyone would use it, right?
That's right. That's it.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, I have to say that tradition, probably everyone that's ever lived with me since my mission has had to do that on occasion. Like, do you know what? I need to pick me up. We're going to do face masks and chimichangas. Like, it's to this day, I think I've made my girlfriend do it.
That's so good. I love it. Oh man. And I remember.
I was just going to say, I've got a weird picture of you and me, I think, lying down holding hands with a blindfold on.
That's what I was just going to talk about. It was we did the Moroni challenge together.
Yeah.
And the best part was I was like, I'm not doing this by myself. And you and I held hands like we were like little friends from grade school. It was amazing.
The picture's a sight. Two topless hairy men with like holding hands, pajama bottoms, and a piece of bread on our chests, and blindfolds. It looks interesting.
Oh my gosh, so good! So many fun times we had. It was great.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, so good. Well, where did you go after that? Because we left the same time.
Yeah, so I went to I can't remember the name of I feel like it was the Kilwinning area, but I actually was living in Irvine, and it was the Irvine ward.
Yeah.
I feel like our area was called Kilwinning, even though we didn't even live there.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
But yeah, I was there training Elder McBride, Marcus McBride,
that's
the legend.
Right.
Yeah,
we'd love to have Marcus come on. He's told me no a few times, and I keep bugging him. So reach out to him and tell him we'd like to have him on the podcast.
It would be so cool to hear from him. He's awesome. Yeah, well, at least you can provide an example of someone who's said no and dugged it a lot, and you finally got them on, right?
That's true. That's true. I've had to be persistent with you for sure, Pilko. That's true.
But yeah, we had a great time, to be honest. We were best friends. We just laughed the whole time I was training him. We worked really hard, like I said. I got that from my trainer, and never really stopped. So we'd be out chapping doors in the rain at all hours, and we didn't mess around or take any time off, but we just laughed the whole time. He's hilarious. Really fun guy, real sweetheart of a person. So yeah, we had an awesome time there. We taught a lot of people, had some good success, and I think he had a really good time there as well. But certainly, I'm glad I got Marcus as my person that I was training first, because it turned what could be a stressful anxiety kind of position into just having a great time with him. And I think we spent a lot of time and focus on food. We've been making like enchiladas and all sorts of things, and for some reason we're obsessed with leftovers, so we'd make like enormous amounts of lasagna or enchiladas and then eat it for like 3 days. Yeah,
that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah. Now we're adults, we all do it, right? But when you're like 20, it's like, who's sensible enough to do that? I'll be honest, we weren't doing it because it was a sensible idea. Now, that doesn't sound like me and Marcus at all. We were doing it because we thought leftovers taste better than the real meal.
Seriously?
Like leftover enchiladas are better the next day, right? Lasagna too, chili. Like, let's be honest, it's all better the next day. So
I agree.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun around food. And I introduced him to chip butties. Remember chip butties?
Why am I not remembering what that is? Chip buddies?
So chips is what you guys call fries, right?
Right.
But they're thicker and from the chip shop. And then butty was sandwich. Like, so you'd have it in a roll. So it'd be like a roll and then butter, and then you put the fries, or we call them chips, on the roll, and then more butter or maybe ketchup, and then the roll on top. So it's like chips in a sandwich. It was disgusting and greasy, but like people love it. And I made Marcus try it. He thought he was going to hate it, and he was like, "How can you guys be so unhealthy?" And then he had one bite, and literally every day we had to stop at a chip shop. For the whole time we were together, he'd ask every time we passed a chip shop, like, "Oh, to Pilkington, can we get a chip butty?"
That's so good. Oh man, yeah. I mean, I don't think I ever had the privilege of having one, but it sounds like I need to try one the next time I'm at a chip shop in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing healthy in there, but
of course not.
I mean, chip shops.
I was gonna say, is there anything healthy there? Goodness.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, yeah, he's a fun guy. We messed around in the house a lot. We had actually, like, I don't know why it was in the rental that we were renting, but we had like this enormous wine glass. And when I'm doing that with my hands, I'm not exaggerating. It was like enormous. It was like half the height of me. And for some reason, we thought it'd be fun to make a full size Ribena in it. Like, it's not ours. It was in the flat.
Oh my god!
So we had to buy like 3 bottles of Ribena, pour them in, and then fill the rest up with a hose of water. And we were drinking it for like 4 days.
What? 4 days?
With giant straws. Whenever we were thirsty, we'd just go over to the communal chalice and just drink some Ribena out of it. And then for some reason one night, and in hindsight, it's obviously a stupid idea, but at the time it didn't click that it was a stupid idea. I was like, when you go to bed and sometimes you're like, I want to take a drink to bed, right? Because I might get thirsty in the night or what have you. So for some reason, I thought it would be clever to take the giant Ribena chalice that we've been drinking for like 3 days and put it on my bedside table precariously, and then just drink out of it in the night. And at some point in the night, I knocked it off with my arm, and it smashed all over the ground, like gallons of Ribena everywhere on a cream carpet. It was a disaster. Me and Marcus were probably trying to clean that up for about a week.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh god. You have to send a picture of that if you have one. That'd be pretty funny.
I'm sure I didn't have the broken bit. I was too embarrassed. I didn't want any evidence. I felt like the police were going to come after it.
The Mission Home police.
Yeah, probably.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I got to live with Marcus again later in my mission in Edinburgh, which was nice, to kind of be more on a par at that point, not like a trainer and a new missionary. So that was really nice. But I remember when we lived together in Edinburgh, we did like that color code book. I don't know if you've ever done it, like the 4 personalities. And like me and Marcus were both yellow, which is just you're motivated by fun. And we were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like just everything we did was silly. Like the whole time we were together was just being stupid and laughing. And yeah, I had a great time with Elder McBride.
That's so good.
How long were you with them?
Trying to see if the only other thing I've written down from hill winning was we had some very randy neighbours. So their bed was against our bedroom. So every night we had to go to sleep listening to them. It's quite distracting as a missionary. And you're there with your new missionary, and you're like, "Welcome to your mission. We'll make you work hard. Now go to sleep. It's 10:30." And they're just like, boom, 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 for like an hour.
Oh my god!
Oh man,
that would be a horrible experience as a missionary. Doesn't matter how long you've been on your mission.
True. It's even worse if you saw our next door neighbours. They were
really?
in their 60s. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Once we'd seen their faces, it made it worse because we could picture it.
Jeez. Oh man! And you were with Marcus for 3 months, you said?
Yeah, I'm really bad with all the timeline. But yeah, probably. Well, part of me thinks a little bit longer, maybe 3 moves, but I'm not sure. But I think it sort of took me almost to the year mark. Almost, yeah, maybe one moves before a year.
Okay, where'd you go from there?
I went to East Kilbride.
Okay.
So I was training again with Elder Wilkinson. I don't know if you knew him. He's from
Danny.
Liverpool.
Yeah,
Danny. Yeah.
So you trained back to back?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And I was also the district leader there as well, so I took that on and training.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think I got the same sort of district leader nerves as I got in the MTC. It's just like, I'm not qualified to do this.
Oh man,
everyone's like your age, and you're just like, I don't have any authority over you. But no, I had fun, and I think the district liked me, and it definitely was a learning curve. I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing in district meetings or anything like that, especially if the zone leaders would visit. I was just like, oh gosh, can everyone pretend that I'm teaching them things?
Yes, been there, done that. APs came into mind. I was like,
oh,
I hope this is well prepared.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And the ringing, do you remember the ringing in? You had to like ring into your zone leaders and report your numbers at night and stuff like that. I hated those bits of it.
I can't remember. Did we do that nightly or did we do that weekly? I thought it was weekly for some reason.
I have a strange suspicion the zone leaders sort of said what they wanted, but yeah, I think it had to be weekly. But I think that we went through periods where they wanted if it was like numbers were down, they would make you do like a daily call or something, as far as I can remember anyway.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Might have been different for you because you had 2 trainees and they were trying to make sure you were doing something to make sure that your new missionaries knew what they're doing.
Yeah, probably. You know how they trusted me with 2 new missionaries in a row, but they were the only times I trained though. Yeah, it's just like a real kind of intense burst of like have some new missionaries, train them up, and yeah, never got to do it again. I always quite liked the idea of people that got to train near the end of their mission, you know, maybe their last 6 weeks or their last 3 months or something. I love that idea. Like you're getting ready to go home, but it's nice to impart that kind of knowledge, because at that point I still felt like I didn't know what I was doing and I was a new missionary basically, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I worked Elder Wilkinson, poor Danny, to the bone. Even had him out. This is gonna make me sound horrible, but I even made him knock doors the whole of Christmas Day.
You did not.
Yeah, I legitimately did. in a council estate and blocks of flats and the worst areas. We didn't have any invites for dinner or anything. I was like, we can't waste the whole day. Like, what we're gonna do? Just sit around our flat doing nothing. So,
Oh man.
yeah, we just went out knocking doors. But I was kind of like, hey, look, I had to learn to work hard. You can learn to work hard.
Yeah. Well, then,
That's him.
because you guys both came in at the same time, you whitewashed the area. Then is that right?
Yeah, we must have done. Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know what had happened before. Maybe I did at the time. I certainly don't now. But for whatever reason, the ward was kind of like, you do you, and we'll do us. And so we weren't really involved with the ward. They didn't want to have meetings with us. We weren't involved in anything at a ward level.
Mhm.
I guess if we needed someone to come and help us, we had a few people. And as far as I remember, we didn't really do we only had a few people that sort of fed us. But what they'd do is like drop off care packages to our house. Like the ward would drop off like food
Okay.
for us.
Interesting.
But yeah, there's maybe something's happened with missionaries there. Maybe that's why they whitewashed out, or maybe I don't know. For whatever reason, the ward wasn't that interested. So I think that's why we just spent so much time on our own, knocking doors and things like that. It's all we really had to do. But yeah, we had a good time. I don't know how well you know Danny, but he's a legend. But he's a very intense guy. If he gets into something, he's 100% into something. So
Yeah.
I think while we were together, he went through a period of like only eating nuts for every meal. He definitely went through yoga every day. So I'd just get involved to try and support him. So we'd do yoga. I tried my first ever protein shake while I was with Elder Wilkinson.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never had it before, and he was there like working out every day, doing his yoga. It's like, yeah, getting the whey protein. So yeah, I remember a lot of healthy eating, a lot of exercise, a lot of yoga. He even made us drink nettle tea like all the time, which was disgusting.
What is that? No.
You know the plant nettles, like
And stinging nettle.
Stinging nettle, yeah. They leave bumps
Really?
all over you, don't they? Yeah. So like people make tea out of it. I don't know why it doesn't taste nice, but I guess it's healthy. But yeah.
Pretty funny. Goodness.
Yeah, we worked hard. We had a good time. I remember calling home as well, and like a pay phone. I guess because the ward we weren't involved in the ward, so we didn't go around anyone's house. So I remember when it was like, you got to call home at Christmas, did you? I guess.
Yep.
We walked to the payphone down the road, so he would have to stay in the flat and just watch me on the street. And I was just talking to my mum out on a payphone, and then we would swap over because I didn't want them to hear the whole conversation. I just remembered like standing there watching him in a phone box. So it was odd, but it's nice to talk to your family, isn't it?
Yeah, but not in that circumstance, Dave. Come on, that's pretty awful. I'm sorry.
It was a bit weird. The weirdest thing about it all, though, wasn't the phone box. It was like when my mum picked up the phone, and I was like, "Mum, you sound African." She was like, "I am African," but because I've lived with my mum my whole life, I've never known she had an African accent. and then I hadn't seen her in a year, and I rang her, and I was like, "Mum, why do you sound African? This is so weird." Like I just forgot what her voice sounded like.
Yeah, interesting.
It was the same when I got home from my mission. Like walked through the door, I was like, "Mum, you've got a weird accent. I'm not used to this."
Yeah, I mean, ran around with quite a few accents on your mission, and so not hearing Mom's voice, I'm sure, could get muddled pretty quickly.
I mean, let's be honest, you mainly hear American accents, don't you? Went home with a bit of an American twang.
I'm sure you love that, Pilkey. Come on.
I mean, I didn't mind. It's just everyone else. Like, I couldn't talk to people without them just rinsing me for my accent when I got home from my mission. Honestly, my accent and saying awesome all the time just got rinsed by everyone. British people have very sort of dry sense of humor, don't they? And they're just like, yeah, get rinsed.
Yeah.
But, I remember I got my mate to record when I was doing my practice for my wedding speech. Oh, it's so embarrassing to watch back. It honestly makes my skin crawl watching it back because I've got an American accent. I say awesome all the time. And I'm like very missionary with my hand gestures, like, so, blah, blah, blah. It's like I'm trying to teach a discussion in my wedding speech. It's awful.
Oh man, send me a copy of that too, please.
That'll be uploaded on YouTube.
Great idea. Let's do it. Oh man, that's too funny.
What did I write? Anything else? Oh, I got my first ever speeding ticket while I was there as well. We didn't have a car, but Elder Bear took me out on. He was the zone leader, and he said, "Right, we're going to do. Was it called exchanges? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to do exchanges." And he was like, "You can come up here." So when I got up there, or however we did it, he's like, "Right, so you're driving." It's like, "Oh, but I passed my driving test before my mission. I've never driven, like ever." He's like, "Well, I can't drive, and we've got appointments, so you're going to drive." So I had to get in this car with your zone leader in there, so I was nervous anyway. And then, like, I've never driven a car since I passed my test. It was like a year and a half ago before that or something. So yeah, I was so nervous. I was like dripping with sweat. And we're coming down this road, and I'm just driving along, and you know what Elder Bear's like. He's like quite say what I say what I think, and he's like, "Elder Pilkington, can you yield?" And I was like, "Can I what?" He's like, "Yield." I'm like, "I don't know what you say it again." He's like, "Elder Pilkington, yield." And I'm like, "Yield? What?" And he's like, "Stop!" And I like hit my foot down. I was just about to drive across the like junction. But obviously, we don't use the word yield. Like, that's not a word we use in England or Britain at all, ever. Definitely not for, "Can you please stop? You're about to crash the car." So him shouting at me louder and louder. And I'm like, I still don't know what yield means. Like, what are you asking me to do? I guess, do your signs say yield on them?
At roundabouts, they do.
Yep.
Oh, would that be like our give way signs?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
give way. Okay.
Yeah. So we have a traditional stop sign, and then there's a triangle sign that says yield on it, and
Right.
that's how we were all taught, I'm sure. So
yeah, that could have been a dangerous miscommunication there. Just shouting yield at me. I had no idea. He's getting more and more panicked. Like, I want you to stop.
So you were coming to a roundabout at that moment?
I think it was like a T junction, and I was just going to plow straight across it. It was like night. It was dark. I was just like heading straight at this T junction at like 50 miles an hour. He's like, "Yield, please yield."
Oh man.
Poor guy was probably. I remember me being terrified. That poor guy was probably terrified with like me driving around, never driven before, around Glasgow.
I'm really excited to hear what Brian has to say about this story, because I know he will listen to this, and then he will call me and tell me about his side of the story. So I hope you enjoyed that recollection right there from Elder Pilkington, Brian.
Yeah, I had a nice day with him, but I remember getting back, and then like 2 days later, I had a speeding ticket as well. So it's like, I've almost crashed. I've got a speeding ticket. I'd never want to drive again.
Did the speeding ticket just come from like one of the cameras?
I guess, yeah. I got caught by a camera, so I guess it went to the mission home, and then they sent it to me. Yeah.
You should have mailed it right back to Brian and said, "Hey, your car got a ticket. I don't know who was driving."
Yeah, but I get the points on my license, right? So
that's right.
And I think over here in your first 2 years, like, you get half the amount of points. So if you make enough mistakes, you would, like, I don't know if you get a ban or if you lose your license or something. But I remember that was like half my points gone. So I was like paranoid about driving for the rest of my mission.
It's pretty funny. Goodness.
So yeah, that was East Kilbride. So I think I was there 2 moves, but I think if we add up all these moves, like at one point I said to my girlfriend, "Can you add all these months together?" And she was like, "Yeah, 2.5 years." And I was like, "Yeah." I'm obviously getting all these timelines wrong. But I think I was with him 2 moves. Yeah, good guy. But I never was really around Elder Wilkinson after that, so I never really saw anything else. I know he had to go home at a certain point, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't really catch up with him after that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've been in touch with Danny, and he said he'll come on the podcast at some point in the future. I'm still working on it, but
wicked.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from him. Love to hear his beautiful Liverpudlian accent. That'd be beautiful as well.
Mm. Yeah, he's a funny guy as well, so it'd be a good podcast.
It would. Where'd you
Then
go
I
after
went
then?
to Springboig in Glasgow.
Okay.
So I got the pleasure of living with Elder Bear then. So yeah, I moved to Springboig with Elder Archambault, and we were the zone leaders in Glasgow.
That's right.
And we were with Elder Bear, and I don't remember Elder Bear's companion's name. Sorry. But yeah, we had a great time living with those guys. It was fun.
Was it Farnsworth?
No, I think it began with a K. He did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think, but I don't really remember.
Okay. I'll figure it out. Bear with
All right. But it might not be a K. I might be leading you down a garden path there. But I remember, yeah, out at Archambault, I mean, he might be one of the nicest people I've ever met. I absolutely love Kyle. We got on really well, and he was so nice to me. And yeah, I think he was really. I think he said like he just really appreciated, like he had a good. I can't remember his exact words, but he basically was saying like he'd had a really great time serving with me, and he really appreciated sort of that I was a kind person. He's a kind person. I think it was nice. I don't know all his companions and his history and stuff, but he seemed to really appreciate having just like a nice, easy time with me and getting on so well with someone and having a friend as a companion. So I equally saw him that way. He's a great guy. I've always meant to go over and see him actually, but I even was going to at one point, but then he postponed his wedding, and I spent the money on going to Tenerife. And then by the time he got married, I didn't have the money anymore.
Are you still in contact with Kyle?
Similar to Matt Nelson, I've been in contact with him a fair amount, but I haven't written in the last few years now.
Okay. I'd love to get in contact with him, and he is not on social media, so I have to track him down otherwise for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, we had a great time. I did feel bad for him because when I was younger, I got glandular fever, and it really knocked me out. I missed like 6 months of school at one point from it. And I remember the doctor saying afterwards, like I might get a bit of ME every now and then, just as like the stuff still is going to remain in your body forever, and sometimes you'll get sort of tiredness, ME type symptoms. And I have noticed that through my life. I'll sometimes have like a 3-month period where I'm like just more exhausted than I can imagine, and everything's like fighting an uphill battle. And unfortunately for Elder Archambault, they never held it against me seemingly, but I went through a bit of that period while I was with him. So I felt sorry for him. I slept almost every car journey. Like he drove and I would sleep the entire way to the appointment. Then we would teach the appointment. At some point in the appointment, I'd fall asleep while we were teaching the discussion, and like on his shoulder or on the arm of a chair, just like that, snoring while he's doing the discussion. Then he'd wake me up when we'd drive to the next appointment. I'd sleep the whole way to it, and then the same thing in the appointment. I was just struggling so bad with tiredness. So yeah, poor guy putting up with me. I had a bad back while I was serving with him as well, which I always remember fondly because they would all get up and exercise. Was it like 6:30 till 7 you had to exercise, or something like first thing in the morning, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Was it half an hour? That sound about right. Yeah. Yep. And they would all get up and exercise, and I'd just look so lazy. But I had a really, really bad back, and you know when you can't sleep because you're bad back. So I'd get up and I'd just lie on the floor for that whole half an hour, and it would be like the best relief for my back ever. And they're all there working out and just lying there like a plank. But I tell you what, it felt amazing after lying in the mattress and having a sore back all night.
Yeah, for sure. Dexter Snyder, does that ring the bell?
Snyder, yeah. So Snyder was his second companion while I was living with him. I think he had one before that, maybe.
Was it Sean Bird?
Or one after that. Maybe it started as Snyder, and then maybe it was Hess, maybe. Yeah. That sound right? Brady Hess? Yeah.
You're probably right. I'm just looking at Brian's companions, and Dexter was his last one in Springboig, so I could be...
yeah. Who was the one before that in Springboig?
He was still in the ZL area with Sean Bird.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think he had Snyder and then Hess. Yeah, you've jogged my memory.
Okay.
Or Snyder and Hess were. Maybe Elder Bear was the one that left. Yeah, that could be right. But yeah, it was interesting because I think Elder Bear and Elder Archambault were like, I feel like they were older than me, but I went on my mission a little bit late. I think Carl definitely went late on his mission because he was doing mountain biking or something beforehand, and I don't think he'd been a member beforehand. So I think he definitely was older, and Elder Bear just felt older. I don't know if you got that feeling, but he just felt like he was 10 years older than me. Like he's an authority.
I was his companion for a couple weeks, and yes, he was a smart man. So I always leaned on his discretion for sure.
So me and Snyder would be like the little annoying kids, I think, to those two. I remember one time they sort of sat us down, and we sat there and were like, "What's up, guys?" And they were like, "Have you noticed anything?" Me and Elder Snyder were like, "Nope. What are you talking about?" They're like, "You haven't noticed anything?" "No, what are you talking about?" They're like, "In the kitchen?" I'm like, "Nope." And they're like, "We haven't washed up for like 3 weeks, hoping one of you notices and actually does some washing up." And we're like, "Oh, have you?" They're like, "How are you eating?" And I'm like, "I just put toast in, put it on my hand, peanut butter. I don't need a plate." Like, we honestly just didn't even notice. It was piling up. And we didn't have anything left. And they were just waiting, hope one day we would notice and we'd do something about it. And neither of us genuinely noticed.
That's amazing. Oh,
We had a lot of flat antics there, actually. We had our plumbing went, so we'd have to have like cold showers, but we didn't have a shower, so we would like throw buckets of cold water over each other in the bath. That was how we'd get ready in the morning. It was so cold. You know what Elder Bear's like, though? He's just like, "Tough it out, let's do this. Don't be little girls about it." And we're like, "Okay."
yeah.
And then we had an incident where someone blocked the toilet. I'm not sure who, but it was gross. And it was the only toilet, and there's 4 of us. And no one wanted to do anything about it, and no one would own up to it. It honestly wasn't me. I don't know who did it, but no one would own up to it. So no one would clean someone else's blocked toilet, right? So it just ended up being blocked for like weeks and weeks, and we just shut the door. But then eventually the smell started seeping through the door, and the whole flat was like gag worthy. And poor Elder Bear again had to just go down a hardware shop, get some big gloves, like a plunger, and like clean it all up. It's like, this is ridiculous. Why will no one own up and clean it up?
Oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure that Brian has put that out of his memory because he did not share that on either of his podcasts. So, oh my gosh. Looking forward to having that memory with Brian and talking with him. That's funny.
Yeah, my main memory living with Brian was just wrestling. He just wrestled everyone. Anyone that visited, "Oh, someone's on exchanges, I'll wrestle them."
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was a good time. And I think me and Elder Archambault, we had a great time there. We did a lot of great missionary work. We also did a lot of work with like the young single adults, is it called? It's above youth. Yeah, like we do a lot of work with young single adults, and we even did like movie nights with them to invite their friends. And we started really experimenting there, I think, for the first time on my mission with things other than just knocking doors. And it went really, really well. So we carried on doing it. But it's also a more fun way to do missionary work. You know, we were hanging out with a lot of the younger people and really making an impact with them and their friends. So it was good.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then I had Elder Petty after Elder Archambault. Yeah. Creighton Petty.
Creighton.
Yeah. Man, that guy is he's a machine. We'd be like, "Do you want to go for a morning jog?" And then he would sprint for half an hour straight. And then when you started bending over and throwing up because you can't run anymore, he'd be like, "Why are you stopping? I don't understand. Let's keep going."
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's a machine, that guy. It's the same with missionary work. It's just, I think he's only got 100 miles an hour. That's his only speed. So yeah, that was interesting. I think he hadn't been his own leader before, so it's like trying to show him the ropes. He's a very strong kind of personality, very unique way of thinking. He's very clever, super smart guy. So I think he'd end up taking over quite a lot. And I think slowly through the time that I was with him, I was just doing less and less because he's such a domineering personality in that way. It's like, no, I'll plan this because I'm smarter than you, and I'll do this and I'll do that.
Yeah.
And he didn't mean any of it like nastily, but he just is the kind of person, like, he's so smart, he's so 100 miles an hour that he just takes everything over, does it himself.
Right.
So I think over the time I was there, I sort of ended up sitting in the back seat, and yeah, I probably didn't enjoy that period so much. I had quite a hard time. That was probably one of my lower parts of my mission. To the point that when I was with my next companion, Elder Hawkins, I didn't know them, but we sat down to do a discussion with Elder Hawkins, and you know how missionaries do. So he was like, "We're going to tell you about the plan of salvation, blah 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 blah," and then missionaries do that thing where they just turn and look at you and they're like, "Right, take over, please."
Yeah.
Which you're normally fine with, was at that moment sat in front of a family of people that I was like, I don't remember the discussions. Because I literally hadn't done them in 3 months, because Elder Petty would talk the entire appointment. So I was literally sat there, and Elder Hawkins looking at me like, "Why aren't you talking?" When we got out, he was like, "What happened? Like, are you really shy? How come you're a zone leader?" I was like, "I didn't know till we were in there, but I don't know the discussions, mate. I'm really sorry." So he had to reteach me, and I had to like go through them and refresh myself.
Wow.
It was interesting.
Creighton Petty, though, gave one of the most, I have to say, it was an intense and rigid, but you could tell his genuine nature of his hugs. Like that,
his hugs were insane, right?
That guy has the hug signature that is the most unique I've ever experienced in my entire life. It's such a good guy.
Yeah, when he's like socially with you, he's almost like a puppy dog. He's full of energy and his smile is enormous. And yeah, he's like hanging out with a puppy dog.
Yeah.
Great to hang out socially. We got on amazing. I think it was just in the missionary work. He's just a doer, and he just does it. And if you're in his way, just move.
Yeah, there you go. I have been in touch with Creighton, and we're working on him getting on the schedule in the future too.
So cool.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. But honestly, exercising with that guy was probably the hardest thing I've ever done exercise wise in my life.
And at that point in time, how much exercising were you doing prior to being with Creighton? Because I'm sure it couldn't have been a ton, because your back was hurt, right?
Yeah, I think in Spring Boy I hadn't really been doing any that I remember, or anything serious. No, I think in other areas like East Kilbride a lot more. But even if honestly, Zach, even if I'd been at the height of my fitness, Petty had a 6-pack. He was ripped. It was like one-handing dumbbell, like barbells. He was insane, that guy. Yeah, we had a barbell and weights for some reason. But yeah, he was in great shape. And actually, I caught up with him. He came over and came and saw me, and we went to Stonehenge together. Oh no, Salisbury Cathedral, I think, together. So it's cool to see him after my mission, but he still looked in fantastic shape. I don't know how. As soon as I got married, I ballooned. Like most of us do, I think.
That's true. That's true.
It's all that good cooking.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I guess that was Spring Boyk, and then I moved to Edinburgh. Is it Elder Colby Hawkins? Is that his name?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry, Colby. I'm even friends with him on Facebook because his posts pop up and stuff. But I was like doubting that I'd got his surname right there.
No, you're good.
But yeah, he's almost perfect. When I served with him, he was incredible, and the perfect companion after I'd kind of had a period of being ill and being tired, and then kind of not doing all that much missionary work because Elder Petty was doing it all for me. So I think it was really nice to be with someone where he was just the nicest human. He looked after me. He's compassionate. He got me back. I was feeling much healthier and fitter again. Yeah, just a sweetheart, absolute sweetheart. But like I said earlier in the podcast, like anything can be a weakness or a strength, right? Like he would almost be so nice there was a weakness. Like I remember some weeks he would spend all his money that was supposed to be for food on investigators, on getting them things or helping them with things. And then we get to the supermarket and he'd be like, "Can I borrow a bit of money just to get some super noodles?" I'm like, "Yeah, what else are you getting?" "Just super noodles. I'll just live off super noodles." I think they were like 7p a bag or something, if you remember, in the supermarkets, like those really cheap noodles. And yeah, he'd just buy those and like live off those. He was stick thin, if you remember him. But yeah, he was just sweet. Yeah, sweet to a fault almost. A really, really nice guy, and really looked after me and got me back on track. So it was a real pleasure serving with him. And obviously
awesome.
Edinburgh's fun. Did you guys serve in Edinburgh?
Nope.
No. It's kind of manic because you suddenly go from most of your mission being maybe around 4 if you're lucky missionaries, most of the time just 2 of you. And then you go to Edinburgh and there was like 14 missionaries in that ward or something when I was there. So it was crazy. I've never experienced anything like that before or since in terms of the number of missionaries that were there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And at that point in time, still zone leaders or assistant at that point?
Yeah, so we were zone leaders at that point, and we were living with Marcus McBride and Elder Wong. I think they were starting the Chinese speaking stuff,
Right.
or they'd been doing it a little while, and Marcus and Elder Wong were going to really kick it into overdrive, I think. So we were living with them, and they were great as well. So yeah, I was really privileged to sort of live with those 3 guys. They're all absolutely lovely people, really sweet, peaceful, nice house. I think most of the time. We might have broken a bed or 2, but other than that.
That's right. I think Colby shared that story on his podcast about somebody breaking a bed. Do you want to share your side of that story?
Do you know, I don't remember it very well. Like, did he say who? I feel like it was probably me and Marcus wrestling or something.
I think he blamed you for it.
Yeah, I think it might have been me and Marcus wrestling, and one of us landed on the bed and just went straight through it. That sounds a lot like what we would do.
But I think he said you guys propped it back together in some fashion so that it didn't look like it was broken, but it was like the bed you never sat on.
Yeah,
unless you were gingerly laying on it to go to sleep and hope you don't move during the night.
Yeah. It was one of those. You have so many of those moments on your mission. I think that's why it's great to remember it. But where you're just crying with laughter and you just can't stop. Like you just wouldn't get in those situations normally, would you? But yeah, that does sound like me and Marcus. Like I said, both motivated by fun. We're just crazy around the flat. And then there's poor Elder Hawkins trying to just look after his investigators and help the whole world out, and we're just like, nah. We'll just have fun.
That's amazing.
I feel like that went really quick, so I don't know if it was only like 1 moose maybe that was there, but it in my memory I don't remember like loads about that period. I think I remember going to like zone leader conference or whatever at the mission home. I remember loving those. Like they got us. I'd never had Papa John's pizza before. I was like blown away. Like, what is this? This is amazing.
You mean American pizza?
American. Well, I mean all our pizza's American. We have Pizza Hut and Domino's, and now Papa John's is very common over here. But back in those days, I'd never come across it. I remember. It must have been President Rains at that point, or was it Frederick? I'm not sure.
I think it was
Frederick.
Yeah, I think the last 6 months of our mission.
Yeah, because you were a zone leader at the same time at that point, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in Aberdeen.
So I remember you been at the conferences, and we got to catch up. Was I? I don't know if it was when I was a zone leader, or it might have been when I was an AP with Elder DePold, but like rented a movie or something, and we all watched a movie at one of the zone leader conferences or something like that. We had like a sleepover and a movie kind of thing. It might have been Back to the Future. I don't know if you're.
I don't think I was invited to that. I was out in the Nether Highlands, and nobody said nothing about it. So I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't know how we managed to swindle permission, but we're like, oh look, they're all come in, and we should just like do a little movie night or whatever. And we ended up watching Back to the Future.
I don't remember that. I'll have to see if it's in my journal somewhere, but I don't think it is.
So I wasn't, and no judgment to people that were, but as I said, I was kind of like, because of my first companion, I was very straight-laced on my mission most of the time. So I wasn't out there like watching movies and breaking rules. but even with that, I managed to watch some cool, quite a lot of movies. Like we went camping, right, with permission.
Yeah.
I also went to there was a ward movie night in Irvine, and we watched Batman Begins, and the mission president said it was fine. I was like, this is the best thing ever.
That's amazing.
What a good movie as well, right?
Oh man, that movie was crazy.
And we even got to go to the cinema, which sounded exciting until I found out it was Happy Feet was the movie that we watched as a watch. So yeah, my only cinema trip was not that great.
Kitty cat cartoon, that's fantastic.
But yeah, I don't remember that much more about being a zone leader in Edinburgh. But then obviously next moves, I was assistant to the president with the great Elder DePold.
That's right.
Which is obviously quite a big change. Because even when you're a zone leader and district leader, it's sort of still the same job, but every now and then you do a few extra duties, right? I think when I came in learning sort of the assistant role, you're not doing so much of the everyday missionary work, much bigger picture kind of things. A lot of driving to zones and driving to interviews and going to sort out problems on the mission and all those kind of things. So yeah, it was quite a gear change, I would say. But I really did enjoy it because obviously we all know about Elder DePold. I'm sure everyone talks about him, but he was obviously trying to do things a little different, shake things up a bit, and I think just it seemed to me like just generally knock a few cobwebs out because they were trying to move away from just knocking doors and move towards member missionary work. And I think he was, we'd go to interviews and he'd be like, well, instead of reading our scriptures the whole time while we're waiting for the interview, let's play a game of football or whatever with the guys. Like, let's just get everyone engaged and stop being boring knocking door missionaries and actually be human beings. And I think it was really fun, but it was, it wasn't what I was used to. I was used to being the hardworking, knocking doors, unless you're out there in the rain, knocking doors, you're not working hard kind of thing. I guess I was a dinosaur on the mission by that point. And it was really, really nice to see, people trying to change things for the better. And I think some people looked at it we're messing around or we're not taking things seriously. But I think it was genuinely just trying to change the ethos of the mission and the way that the missionaries felt like a missionary should behave,
Yeah. Well, there was quite a bit of a swing in the mission too the last 6 months we were there, because as the Fredericks came in and everything was kind of, I want to say we were tinkering with things the summer of 2006 and trying to figure out okay, what does this new phase of the mission look like? And everything was still in a bit of transition. And obviously Elder DePold had a big part in that. He was basically the assistant from the moment that the Fredericks walked in the door until he decided he wanted to go up to Dundee after we had gone home. So, he had a lot to do with that. And I think there were good questions being asked for all of us to understand, okay, is knocking doors for 6.5 hours a day the best way for us to use our time? Or is there other ways that we can use our time that's our most valuable asset at that point in time, right? To help encourage people to take the discussions and then ultimately progress to become members of the church. And, there was just so many questions being thrown out. And what are you seeing, especially as leaders? It was our role to be in those companionships and wondering where the companionships were suffering or where they were seeing successes, and trying to learn from everyone's highs and lows in that moment. That honestly, I felt the last 6 months was a lot more trial and error as opposed to our traditional, we did. There were days I've looked in some of my old planners where it's it just said breakfast, GQ, lunch, chap, dinner, chap,
that was every day.
That was every day. That was all we did. And it's not like we enjoyed it greatly, but it was what it was, So anyway, I think there was a lot of transitional pieces that were happening in the mission. And I completely agree with you. It was kind of okay, how can we fix what may be broken? And how do we enhance what we're doing? And obviously a lot of that came into member missionary work, which really hit the mission pretty hard after we'd gone home, but we had to set the groundwork for that for the missionaries that were going to be in that time frame. So it was a lot for us to take on.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like you say, I don't think who knows? Sometimes you got to try things. You don't know if they're going to work. You don't know if it's going to be the right decision. And with everything in life, sometimes you just got to like try something and see if it helps. And we enjoyed it, and we were trying our best to help people and move the kind of, like I said, the way the mission was thinking about what a good missionary looks like, a man that's stoic and knocks doors 24 hours and is always serious. Like, is that going to be the right kind of missionary for member missionary work? Probably not. But some of the guys who maybe might be seen as missionaries who are like a little bit mischievous and they're a big personality, like actually they're probably great at member missionary work, right? So it was trying to change a lot of focuses, and we really thought hard and trying a lot of things to try and implement that when I was with Elder Pole. It was sad because I did hear from a few missionaries after my mission that after we sort of left, some people were suggesting that we were just messing around and we were just having fun and not taking it seriously. And it just really hurt, because anyone that knows the Pole knows he wouldn't have been like that, and I'm not going to influence him to be like that. So it's strange that you even get the drama and stuff on missions. It shouldn't really be like that. But truth be told, we were just doing everything we could to help people and move the mission in the way that President Frederick wanted it to be. So and I was brand new. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just helping to pull out. And of course, everyone says amazing things about him, and they're all true. He was a great guy to live with. Perfect mix of fun, but really hardworking and really smart when he gets down to it. But outside of that, really, really genuinely lovely guy. Had a lot of fun living with the office elders and doing teachers with other missionaries in Edinburgh as well. But yeah, it's a lot of drive, a lot of logistics, a lot of sorting out where people are going to be. It's a very different side to the mission, to be honest. And sometimes, I don't know about other people who've been AP, but sometimes I felt like I wasn't working as hard because I wasn't out knocking doors in the rain like everyone else. And instead you're in a comfy car driving back from Aberdeen to Edinburgh. But I think, again, that was my own damage from the era that we grew up in, right? I think missionaries now would see missionary work as a different thing to what we saw missionary work.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think the other thing, like you said, it was trying to adopt a new mindset of, if you're not doing what we were taught to do early in the mission, which was knocking on doors or talking to people out on the street, it was, like you just said, using your personality to your advantage, right? Honestly, that was probably my favorite part of my mission in that 6 months. I loved serving with Elder Pattenden, Stewart, and then I obviously had the benefit of running around with Chris Harlow and Tobias Megner for his last 6 weeks of his mission, and Christian Lucas and Alberto Marcone was at the end. And then obviously I served with Brant Peacock, and that 6 months in Aberdeen was honestly my favorite part of my mission, because I think I finally realized that my personality mattered. And it was so key in allowing people to see your personality so that they could really find the endearing qualities within you that made you match who they wanted to introduce you to. Or if you felt comfortable in their home, then obviously they know that you would be comfortable in someone else's home that they know and love. That it's a big step for someone, especially in Scotland, to share the gospel with other people. I mean, that was a stretch for a lot of people to even fathom that was something they were going to do. So using my personality, and then obviously using the personality of my companions as well, was hugely, hugely beneficial to us. And obviously I didn't see all of the fruits of the labor, but after I'd gone home and after we'd left the mission, I mean, talking with Elder Peacock, he talked about all the experiences that he had in Aberdeen afterwards, and how Aberdeen is home. Like he still visits the ward and walks in the door, and everybody treats him like he's just a member of the ward that's been gone for a minute. Like that's the level of relationship that we built with that ward that is just amazing. And I think that those things were starting to come into the mission. And then ultimately the hammer time piece that I'm sure you've heard in the podcast, squelched a lot of that, where everybody was kind of like, well, you need to be this round hole, but you're a square peg. We're going to knock those edges off and make everybody fit where we need you to be. And I think it took some of that personality out of the mission really quick that was damaging, but it's not anything that we could have done about it. It was just, something that the next phase of leaders had to figure out and see if it worked. And they saw success. I don't know if they have like longevity in their successes as far as people sticking around and investing themselves into living in the gospel, but the numbers thing was always a challenge for us, whether it was with President Sister Vreens or with the Fredericks. It was very, very unique for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had a great time, to be honest. It was a lot to learn, and quite interesting to see, behind the scenes. I think I learned a lot about myself and a lot about things that I kind of assumed. I don't know, like I always assumed revelation was like this big thing that I just don't get, and people that are high up do or whatever. And then I don't know about you, but I always assumed like, oh, when they're choosing what areas the missionaries are going to be in, it's like a real inspiring moment. And then you get to the AP and you're like, oh, it's just me and Elder DePaul moving some cardboard pieces around a board and President Frederick saying no, or just sitting there and listening while we did it. I mean, I swear we probably did like 99% of them, and then the odd one he'd go, no, I don't think that's right, and he'd move it. But it's just really, a lot of things I think I'd assumed like were a certain way. It's like, oh, these are all just people trying to do their best, like everyone else on planet Earth, right? Like there's not some huge like bolt of lightning and you know exactly what you're doing, and like, oh, I didn't do this, God chose this. It's like actually just everyone's trying to do their best, make the best decisions they can, and it was interesting seeing that, I think. And also the side of things of trying to not judge certain missionaries, because I think, like you said, it's very easy to say that's a good missionary or that's a bad missionary, wouldn't it? And I think, following on from what you said, some missionaries that some might lump into bad missionary, I was like, no, their personality is amazing, like the members love them. Like they might be bad at knocking doors for 9 hours, doesn't mean they're a bad missionary,
Agreed.
So it was interesting coming into that from that point of view, because I don't think I've ever been like a leader like Elder DePaul that's like, follow me and your life will be amazing because I'm amazing. I'm definitely more, even to this day, more of a leader of like, look, I'm with you guys, I'm one of you guys, let's go along together. I'm not that kind of person who would lead ahead of everyone else. And so it was interesting coming into AP role being like, yeah, but I am one of them. Like I love all these guys. I've been their district leader, their zone leader. I've slogged on the streets with them, and I really liked someone in there having that sort of perspective. Actually, like they are great. They're just great at different things from them.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that too, because many of those that had served in that assistant to the president role have talked about how they kind of had to set aside some of the things that they enjoyed in the mission to be the leader that they thought the mission needed. And again, nothing against them for having that thought in their head, but imagine some of the people that we had in leadership throughout our mission that if they were a little bit more their personality, how they could have enhanced the mission beyond, just being in the role of assistant to the president. There's so many of them. Honestly, I think the one that sticks out to me the most is Doug Pullen. Like he was unfailingly him. Didn't matter where he was, what his leadership role was. He was always Doug, and I think that's why I've always looked up to him as a person that you can look to and say, that's someone that I'd like to shape my life after. Be true to yourself, because the gospel is supposed to be adaptive to who you are. You don't have to adapt to the gospel. There are principles in the gospel that adapt your lifestyle, but it doesn't mean that you can't find how that works best for you, because of the personal side of how you can be and follow the Savior, right? But nonetheless, like those are the things that I look back on. And Craig Rasmussen was one of my favorite missionaries, and when he got into the AP role, it was like Craig, just want to shake the fun out of you. Where is it? Because he had a
Out.
lot.
Do you remember? I
Oh,
thought he had a cracking personality. I love that guy. And
Trevin was awesome too.
Yeah.
Him and his Gumby that he always had in his pocket. I swear, I've talked to Trevin.
I did. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say I've talked to Trevin and invited to come on. He's been reluctant, but maybe at some point we'll get him on the podcast. So hopefully we'll have him in the future.
I remember doing exchanges with him. Maybe I don't know why though, because he was never my zone leader or anything. Maybe it was when he was AP and I was a zone leader. Maybe it was that something like that. But I remember we just had the best day, and we were just singing all day. And he was like, I always wondered why I never served around you, Elder Pilkington, and now I know we'd never get any work done.
That's fantastic.
Like God has kept us apart.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's just it. Like there was plenty of those leaders in our mission that, you saw their personal side, especially when you served around them in a more intimate setting, in their district, in their zone. But you're right. It came down to you showing your personality, and also everyone else had to show their personality and how they felt they needed to fulfill their calling, and each their own, right? That's just how it was, and it's all good. And now we look back on it with fondness and joy, and also look back and wonder how we got through those days where it was 10 degrees outside and you could barely do anything because the wind was whipping and the rain was everywhere. And
so cold up there, especially on the west coast with the rain.
Oh yeah.
But I think while you're talking about that, I think that is probably the kind of evolution that I found, the kind of thread through my mission, because I started off with, and it was the era that we were in, Elder Nelson, like knocking doors, working solidly. If you're not out there knocking, you're not working hard. And that was the era that we kind of started in, wasn't it? And I worked so tirelessly at that for most of my mission. And I think it was with Elder Archambault we started doing, like, actually we can get a lot of interest from YSA and meetings through their friends. And then as I went in and Elder Pold, obviously it was like a huge part of what we were doing as assistants. And I think I just personally learned exactly what you're saying through my mission, is like, actually at the beginning I started off like, I have to be this cookie cutter missionary to be a good missionary. And I think through that process, as it got nearer and nearer to the end, I realized actually, who I am is the right person, like for the job. I don't have to be this cookie cutter person. I have to be Elder Pilkington. I have to be David, like who I am. And I've sort of carried that ever since, to be honest. Like even in my roles, luckily I do a training mainly these days, so training's great for my personality. But in any role that I do, I've just learned from that experience really, and taken that with me, that actually if someone's hired me as a manager of something, or me to run a training course, and they're paying a lot of money for me to come in and do something, it's like they're paying for me, not someone else, not some cookie cutter. And like, actually, for right or wrong, just be yourself. And I think that's the best way.
I agree. They're not paying for a PowerPoint presentation. They're paying for you to present said PowerPoint or presentation, however you do it, because I'm sure you do it really well, which is great.
Yeah.
All right. The question that I had on my mind as we got started, what was your tour like as assistants for new missionaries?
Oh gosh, I remember because the difficult thing was I had 6 weeks, one moves with Elder DePold and one moves with Elder Stanley, so I didn't get a consistent run with it. So it's almost like DePold was passing the torch on to me, and then I was passing the torch on to Elder Stanley. But it was interesting. Yeah, DePold was kind of like briefing me, like, this is what we say on this bit, just make up your own story. So what I thought was funny is I assumed everyone got the same sort of tour, and maybe they did. It obviously probably changed through the years and stuff, but certainly when I got to it with DePold, he was kind of like, oh yeah, we tell them this bit. We always have the kind of bit in the kind of broken castle thing, and we always do the Royal Mile, and we tell these bits. And he was like, but the rest, just make it up, just say whatever you want. So yeah, we just drove around doing the tour, and he would look at me and be like, oh, and on our right is, and then he'd look at me and I'd have to make something up on the spot. So it's kind of just like a fun game of like, just what's the first thing that comes to your head for these poor new missionaries.
And the funny thing is I'm looking at his companion list. he learned that from Doug Pullen, from Craig Rasmussen, and from Trevin Hout before he started with you. So he had, I'm sure, quite a few bags of tricks in his sleeve from all those that shared their adventures in that story. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And so I felt like I barely knew what I was doing by the time I took Elder Stanley on the tour and was like, oh, so this bit, we say that, and we say that, and by the way, make up this bit. I don't know if I even got it all right. And that's the hard thing. You're passing on this kind of secret between APs. But if you get some quick changes, then those people haven't learned all the things that you tell people anyway. So I'm sure by the time it got onto whoever was after Stanley, like McConkie and all that, it probably changed completely because I'd messed it all up.
That's fantastic though, because that's your personality. It's just you know, whatever. There's some buildings, they're old. It's Edinburgh. Here we go. Let's go.
I guess run up that hill.
There you go. Oh man, that's so good. Any experiences with Elder Stanley beyond what you've shared already?
Yeah, it was an interesting period because we were trying to carry on the work that I was doing with Elder DePold. But obviously, as you know, what's like your last 6 weeks, you're winding down. You are mentally getting ready to go home, aren't you? I was concentrating on things like losing some weight for the ladies, and just getting everything in order, applying to universities, things like that. So poor Elder Stanley probably didn't get the full attention, but we had a great time, and he's such a nice human. I wish I'd spent more time with him, to be honest. It was just one quick moves, and we're APs and we're driving all over, and I'm getting ready to go home. It felt all very rushed, and I wish I would have spent more time with him. But we did have some lovely kind of time over Christmas, I think, because it would have been Christmas coming up to us finishing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So we played, again, the advantage of having 14 or so missionaries, however many in Edinburgh. We'd have everyone over, like playing stupid games all the time and all opening our presents together in a big room. And we had a lot of special sort of memories, getting to know all the missionaries there, and obviously being over Christmas as well, lots of like dinner appointments and things. So I think with Elder Stanley, I remember more of the kind of social side. I remember I don't know if he got the full best of the hardest working me. I was getting ready to go home. I was trying to give it my all. But yeah, there was Christmas too. So it's not like the easiest period, is it? No. Just before we went home. It almost, I don't know about you, but it almost made me like ready to go home even sooner. So it was Christmas and we're going home in like a week or two. So like, what's the point in getting going again after Christmas?
Yeah, it's true. I'll never forget that phone call home on Christmas because my parents were like, so how are you doing? I'm like, good. I got to go. I'll see you in a few weeks. And I'm pretty sure it was like a 10-minute phone call, which I hadn't talked to them since Mother's Day in 2006. I'm sure they were really excited. And I pulled the plug on them so quick because I was like, I don't have much time. I'll see you in a few weeks. Bye. Yeah. But you're right. Like it was kind of that situation where it was just like, how do you ramp yourself back up after Christmas and New Year's when you know that ultimately it was like not even a full week after New Year's that we went home. Yeah. So it was a little odd. And I remember my parents tried to get me to come home before Christmas. And I'm like, no, I want to be here. This is like a moment in time that I will not ever have again. So you'll have plenty more Christmases with me. This is my last one and I want to do it right. And, but yeah, it was hard. It was a struggle, but at the same time, it still enhanced the work because I was able to spend time with people I loved, truly, Yeah. I was fortunate enough to have been in Aberdeen that last 6 months of my mission, that it was like a part of my favorite areas, right? It'd almost become another home away from home where I was able to just interact with many, many people that I'd had great experiences with, both spiritual, personal, and everything in between. And I couldn't have asked for anything else. So it was really wonderful. I hope you had something similar in Edinburgh, but I can't say that that was exactly everybody's experience.
No, I would say, ups and downs. I wouldn't say it was probably my favorite period, Edinburgh, but I certainly loved all the social side with all the missionaries, and I loved doing the assistant work. I think as much as I missed the missionary work, it was really nice to be looking at things big picture, and it was a nice change in that way to rather than be thinking about my investigators and who I'm doing, like more hands-on stuff. It was much more higher picture. How can we work with the whole district? How can we work with the whole area? How can we work with the whole mission? So I learned a lot from it all, but yeah, it probably wasn't like my absolute favorite part of my mission. I think it's definitely ready to go home by the time I did go home. But then it's crazy. I don't know if you ever had it, but I wanted to go back out not long after. I was like, what am I doing here? Is it possible to sign up for another year? Like,
yeah.
I don't belong here. I need to go back.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, I flew across the world, and when I got home, like, I couldn't go to bed because it was 7 a.m. in the UK when it was like 2 a.m. when I got home. And I actually called Peacock. He was my last companion, and I caught him like right in the morning. He's like, "Hey, the APs are here. I can't talk very long, but I'm glad you're home safe." Like, I felt horrible because, I got home and I wanted to be back in the flat with Peacock, going out and doing the next day's work. And it was sad. It was hard to just kind of say, okay, well, this is back to normal, and you get kind of thrown into life as you're supposed to take it on. And it was challenging, but yeah, I would have gone back in a heartbeat because it was so much joy amongst the trials, and definitely worthwhile, especially with the relationships we had with each other.
It was brilliant in a lot of ways. And I mean, I don't even go to church or believe in any kind of religious stuff now, but I still cherish those years. I learned so much. I spent so much time with some of the most amazing people I've ever met. Yeah. I still, like, my kids will tease me about my mission because they've grown up not members of the church. They don't really know anything about it, except grandma's a Mormon. And even now when I tell them stories from my mission, they're like, "Oh, I bet you wish you could like just not have done that now that you're not a Mormon." And I'm like, no, I absolutely loved those 2 years. Like, I wouldn't change that for anything. But for all the good bits, bad bits, how hard it is, it's a defining time, isn't it? And the people you meet are, I don't know about you, but to this day, some of the best people I've ever met are on my mission.
Definitely.
We had a great bunch up there.
I mean, you're one of them for sure. I'll never forget when you guys came across and stayed at my parents' house and on your holiday in Utah. It was a lot of fun to have you around my stomping grounds for a little bit, just to kind of show you around. That was one of my favorite moments, and it was awful to see you guys drive away. But we're still here, right? That's the best part about the technology of our world today is, as much as it would be great to spend more time for me in the UK, I still get a glimpse of it, of what's going on in people's lives. And I'm really grateful for that, because there's so many people. I look at like my dad, for instance, he's gotten into the social media stuff, but not like we are as far as the in-depth, but he's got people that he served with on his mission that he hasn't talked to in 30, 40, 50 years. It's been a long time. But I'm grateful because he's listening to these podcasts, and now he's starting to reconnect with his missionary companions. And
that's great.
That's fantastic. Like, find out what's going on in their lives. That's what this is all about, is there's still that camaraderie that comes from, like you just talked about, the 2 years or whatever period of time that you were in a mission with a group of people that had an impact on your life, for the good, the bad, and everything in between. So it's always good to chat about life in that regard. I'm curious to know if you have any fond memories with regards to the Vrains and the Fredericks in your time on the mission.
My favorite story about President Vrains I can't tell you on a podcast, but I'll have to tell you another time.
No way! Come on. The statute of
I think
limitations is gone, David. Come on, you gotta give it to us, unless it's like wildly inappropriate, please.
It's slightly inappropriate and also embarrassing for me, and more embarrassing for someone else. So I'll definitely tell you off there.
Okay, I'll take it.
But yeah, my main memory with the Vrains is probably the same as everyone else. It's just he was one of the loveliest guys. I got on really well with him. His hugs just made me feel amazing. anytime I was worried about something on my mission, especially, like I said, I do get anxiety, and I've struggled with things like becoming a district leader, just that kind of anxiety of not feeling adequate or up to it. I don't feel like, because I wouldn't say I'm a natural kind of, like I said, a leader, like follow me everyone. So I didn't naturally find those roles the easiest, even though I somehow kept getting them. And whenever I'd go and talk to him, and I'm sure you experienced similarly, it just made me feel so at ease, and he'd just laugh at me and be like, Elder Pilkington, I've got missionaries who won't leave their flat in the morning, and you're worried you're not a good enough district leader. He was like, I'll have 10 of you, please. It's like, shove me out the door.
Yes. Yeah, it was great for perspective when you'd sit down and be like, hey, I'm dealing with this problem. He goes, oh, that's okay. Just repent and carry on. I got other stuff I'm dealing with. Next, please. You're not anywhere near my problem. So that's awesome.
He had an amazing ability to just sort of dismiss you and get you out of the room quickly, but also put you totally at ease by being like, I reckon half the things I went to him that I was worried about or in like anxious about, or leadership problems, I'd go to him and he'd just laugh in my face and be like, you'll figure out, you're smart, Elder Pilkington, go and do it.
That's right. That's
and then just hug you, and all your problems went away when he hugged you, right? Like, you were talking about how good Elder Petty's hugs were. I mean, President Brains was the best.
I agree.
And I talk about words I still say. I still love the way he said vehicle. Like, elders, one of you needs to get out of your vehicle. I'd be like, yes. I still say it like that sometimes. It's so funny, especially because in Britain we would never pronounce it like with that huge emphasis on the hickle.
Yeah. That's a Utah accent at its best right there.
Is it? Is that specific to Utah?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I love President Brains. I think President Frederick, I had a great time, but obviously is much more involved in leadership by that point, where I would say President Brains felt more like a father or grandfather role, and just supporting me and giving me hugs and etc., patting me and sending me on my way. President Fredericks was very much more like working on a level like a boss. I would say it was more like that kind of relationship. I think he might have found me hard, and I don't blame him. I get it. I think even at school, I wasn't like one of the jocks. I wasn't one of the nerds. Like, I just got that kind of personality. I'll talk to anyone. I'll go hang out with, the sporty people, then the drama people, then the geeks. I just get on with everyone. Socializing is my kind of thing that I love doing. Yeah. And I just kind of fit in with most groups. And I think President Frederick found that hard sometimes. He'd sort of be like, I don't get you. Like, what are you? You seem hardworking, but you're also social, and you're also happy to go and chat to them. But then now you're like, everyone needs to get out and work. And he just sometimes didn't get me. I think he was like, you don't fit in a box well enough for me, Elder Pilkington. Because I think he was that kind of person. He was very into the numbers, and he would make us do breakdowns of numbers all the time, like figure things out, like as if the world works on a spreadsheet. And obviously, people don't work on a spreadsheet, and I think I didn't fit on a spreadsheet for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hard to get to know him too, because he was pretty reserved for the last part of our mission too. Like, he kind of tended to sit back and do a lot of analyzing and not a lot of get into the weeds with people. Because I remember talking with him on the podcast, and he's talking about like how much he loved football, American football, and like rugby and those types of sports. And I'm like, he never said a word to me about that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I played that my whole life, So yeah. It was just a different, I'm sure if we had more time with President Frederick and his wife, we would have gotten to know them on a different level. But that 6 months was probably pretty intense for them, trying to figure out how to run a mission.
I imagine so. And it was also, I guess, from the perspective of me coming in as assistant, DePaul had been there before the Fredericks, right? And then during their tenure, so they were almost taking a lead from him in certain ways and still learning from him and trying to figure things out. So it's almost like when I was there, and obviously living right by them and seeing them a lot, but it was almost like they were taking Elder DePauld's advice on everything. It was almost like me and DePauld were doing a lot of it, and he was still figuring out like where he wanted to take things, and he was more in the kind of background, figuring out like plans and battle plans and long-term strategies while we were kind of getting on with things. So yeah, even living with him, I didn't really get to know him I would say half as well as I felt like I knew President Brain.
Interesting. Very good. Well, David, you've given me more hours than I know that you had anticipated tonight. So really, thank you again for coming on and sharing. And it's been an absolute joy for me to sit down and be with you, my friend. So thank you. Before I let you go, you've mentioned a great number of your companions. Is there any other missionaries that you'd like to hear on this podcast in the future that you want to call out and tell them to get on it and come on and chat with us?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned a couple already. I mean, I don't know if you ever do it, but I obviously love to hear Marcus McBride. He's one of my favorite people. Love that guy to death. Yeah, and it's a shame out at Archambault so hard to get hold of these days, because that guy's got great memory and he's good at telling stories. And he might even, if you were lucky, if you did get him on, he might even pray in his lovely French accent. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
He'd read the Bible and pray in a French accent. It's so good.
Oh yeah, I remember. I don't know that I ever experienced it in person, but hearing of it when he'd like bless the sacrament and do it in that French accent. Oh my gosh, I heard it was just amazing.
Oh, I would really. I know it sounds like terrible, but sacrilegious. But we've been with investigators, and he'd just be talking in his normal accent, and then he'd be like, "Is it okay if we leave you with a prayer?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he'd be like, "Dear Heavenly Father," and I'd be like trying not to laugh in front of these investigators, and they've all got their eyes open. So I'm like, it'd be so class if you get a hold of him. But yeah,
if you can get in touch with him, certainly push him our direction.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I'll send you a message if I think of anyone else.
Yeah, for sure. And anyone who's listening, that if you're feeling that gumption to come on the podcast, you can always send us an email, S.E.M podcast at 51spylaw.com, or visit that website, 51spylaw.com, and then you can fill out a contact sheet, and then we can reach out to you and figure out a time to get together. We'd love to have you. So, Dave, my brother, Pilkington, Pilco, everything in between. You know how much I love you. You're
Love you too, brother.
You're one of my favorite people in this earth, and just know how much I love you. I'm always here for you, and I'm so grateful that you decided to come on a mission and that you came out with our group, and that we got to spend that 2 years together, because it's that 6 months in Dunfermline is easily the time in my life I smile about more and more than ever before. And that's saying a lot. So you've made an impact on my life. I love you so much, brother.
I love you too. And yeah, it was great seeing you in America. I hope eventually. And if you ever come over the UK, hit me up.
I'll certainly let you know. It's actually, spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know, but it's in the works for this summer. So I'll let you know.
Oh, wicked. That'd be awesome. I definitely would love to see you.
All right. Well, I'll say hearty cheerio to you, and we'll talk more soon. All right.
All right. Take care, mate.
Cheerio, brother. See ya.
Bye.